Hello friends, and it's Funky Play Brothers, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube. And today I'm reading part 7 of Five Nights at Freddy's Tales from the Pizzaplex, number 7, Tiger Rock, by Scott Cawthon, Kelly Pyra, and Adrian Wagger. Last time we left off, Tiger Rock was pulled and hurt Kay's arm, and Kay was trying to escape Tiger Rock. Checking over his shoulder, Kay didn't see Tiger Rock, so he dashed into the restroom as sci-fi-ish as the rest of the future pizzeria. The restroom had faucets suspended in midair, which flowed into a glass through the restroom. Contained silver pods instead of stalls. That open pods had no doors that Kay could see. But given that a couple of the pods were solid, he figured the doors were designed to appear when you entered the pod. Kay rushed past the glass and flung himself into one of the silver pods, as he hoped the pods opened and closed, and a shiny silver surrounded him. He ended up in a small enclosure that could have doubled as a small spaceship, minus the polished silver toilet. Kay looked down at the black and white tiled floor, a floor that looked comfortingly similar to the one in the present-day Pizzaplex, and noted with relief that the pod's walls reached all the way to the tile. Good, Tiger Rock wouldn't be able to see Kay's feet. Kay looked up, his chest tightened. The walls didn't go to the ceiling, they curved inward to create a lip around about a foot from the stain-like white interlocking beams that crisscrossed overhead. Kay stared up at the gap. Couldn't he climb up there and get away if he had to? Kay pressed himself back against the wall beyond the toilet. He tried to catch his breath as quickly as possible. Come on, ding, he begged. The VR booth's timer had to go off soon. It felt like he'd been in the future Pizzaplex for 10 hours instead of 10 minutes. Kay closed his eyes and imagined being out in the familiar present-day Pizzaplex. He thought about his friends. He'd see them again in no time. This would be over soon. It had to be. A thud vibrated the pod wall. Something scraped in the pod next to Kay's. Tiger Rock? Kay looked up. What if Tiger Rock came down through that opening? If Kay stayed where he was, he'd be trapped. Kay looked at the pod wall in front of him. How did it open? He stepped forward and nothing happened. He put his hand against the pod's wall, and the pod opened. He exhaled in relief. Kay scurried through the opening on his tippy toes. Thankfully, he was wearing cork-soled shoes that didn't squeak. He ran toward the restroom's exit, glancing over his shoulder. Kay saw that the pod next to him was closed in. Hopefully, Tiger Rock was still in there, trying to sneak up on Kay. Kay reached the restroom door and pushed it open. Stepping into the hall, he trotted toward the main dining room. It was just around the corner. Kay picked up his pace, checking over his shoulder. He was relieved to see Tiger Rock wasn't behind him. Kay rounded the corner. There you are, Tiger Rock said as he reached for Kay's arm. Kay shrieked just as Tiger Rock's paw clamped over his bicep. Red-hot pain shot up in his shoulder. Ding! Kay blinked and looked around. He was in the VR booth, sitting in the golden chair. Kay reached up and felt the mesh headband. He ripped it off his head. His arm hurt when he moved it. Kay pushed off his sleeve and steadied his bicep. It was bruised. Shivering, Kay rubbed his arm. He stood and hurried out of the booth. Kay looked around and spotted Asher and Todd, who were sitting cross-legged near the booth. talking about whether Bulldog went better with the mayonnaise or mustard. Bologna went better with mayonnaise or mustard. The attendant looked down at Kay and frowned. What? The guy asked. I think there's something wrong with the VR booth, Kay said. One of the animatronics hurt my arm. See? He held out his arm. The attendant raised a scargily black eyebrow and curled his thin lip. He clearly didn't believe Kay. Kay opened his mouth to say more, but then he shrugged. Never mind, Kay said. What was the point in trying to convince an employee who clearly wasn't going to believe anything Kay said? He was just glad to be out of the booth. He turned away from the attendant and went over to his friends. I want to go home, Kay said. Huh? We just got here, Todd protested. Sorry, but I don't feel good, Kay massaged his arm again, but he didn't say anything about it to his friends. I'm cool with leaving, Asher said. We could rent a movie or something. Yeah, let's do that, Kay said. Should we do sci-fi or action, Asher asked. Spy movie, Todd said, giving in to his friends. I just read a book about spycraft. Action movies are more interesting than spy movies, Asher said. In what universe, Todd asked. And they were off and running. Kay turned out their argument. Any movie would be fine with him, as long as it didn't have any tigers in it. On Saturday evenings, when the weather was clear, Kay's family hung out by the fire pit in their backyard. Their house was surrounded by tall elms and maple trees, and it backed up to a river in the backyard. They were sheltered from the rest of the neighborhood, and they were insulated from the traffic sounds on the trees. Whenever they were tucked in the back, it felt like they were camping. Kay and his family wouldn't sit by the crackling fire, inhaling its sweet smoke, listening to the burbling river and the rustling tree branches. They would talk about the happenings of the previous week, and they'd also tell stories. They'd watch the sunset or they'd stargaze depending on the time of year. Kay usually loved the Saturday night tradition, but not tonight. He was too jumpy to enjoy it. He was so on edge, in fact, that tonight he nearly threw his sister into the fire pit when she jumped on him. He didn't see her. He didn't see her coming, and he felt like he was back in the VR booth. When the weight of her little legs landed on him, Malia squealed in his ear as she curled up against him. Kay and his dad had been sitting by the fire silently, watching the sun start to sink towards the distant rolling hills. His mom and Malia had been inside fixing Elliot. Malia's favorite stuffed animal, a bed-graggled plush elephant. At least it wasn't a tiger. Elliot had a hole in one of his seams. Elliot is good as new, Kay's mom announced as she settled into the green Adirondack chair next to Kay's dad. Mama did stitches, Malia said in Kay's ear. Her breath was hot and moist, and it tickled the hairs at the back of his neck. Malia squirmed, settling in. Her wild blonde curls, which always flew in multiple directions around her face, if not contained in ponytails or braids, engulfed Kay's face. Some of the strands got in his mouth. Kay spit them out and pulled his head back to avoid being consumed by her mango-scented hair. Kay tried to calm his jittery nerves. He wrapped his arms around his little sister and hugged her close. Unlike other kids, Kay knew who talked about how annoying their siblings were. Kay loved his baby sister. 5 years old, Melia was sweet and funny and loving. She was also demanding. Story, she shouted in Kay's ear again. Every week, Kay and his parents took turns telling Melia long, complicated stories about the adventures of Elliot the elephant. This week it was Kay's turn. He'd been pondering the story he was going to tell all week. But after his experience in the AR booth, he wasn't in the mood to tell it. His story had been about a lion who was stalking Elliot that was too close to Kay's own experience. Kay hugged Malia. I'm sorry, Mally, but I think I'm going to bed. He looked over Malia's flyaway curls. Mom, could you take it this week? I'll make it up next week. Kay's mom frowned for an instant. Then her round face returned to its usual relaxed expression. Of course. Are you coming down with something? Kay's mom wasn't the kind of mom who hovered or worried, but when she used the Hawaiian word for child, Kay knew she was concerned. He shook his head. I just feel off today. He shrugged just as Kay hadn't told Todd or Asher what had happened in the VR booth. He hadn't mentioned it to his parents either. It was just too bizarre to talk about. And it was over. As one of the timeless trio, Kay didn't dwell on the past. What was done was done. He was moving on. So why am I so upright, he thought. Kay ignored his own question as he passed Malia to his dad. Malia, content to wrap his long, skinny arms around her dad's lean shoulders, held up Elliot. She put on a stern face and said in as deep a voice as she could manage, as if she was the elephant. I want my story next time. Kay patted Elliot on the head. I promise you'll have it, he said. Kay stood. He bent over to kiss his mom, and he accepted his dad's fist bump. So, friends, we'll stop there today. Hopefully next time we'll find out if Kay is still in the VR world or not, because I have suspicion that he's not out of the VR world yet. Tiger Rock's going to come for him. So, friends, thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Follow us on Instagram at the Funky Play Bro. Follow us on Twitter at the Funky Play Bros. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Funky Play Brothers. Support our vlog at cashapp, the Dog Sign Funky Play Brothers. We can have more unboxings, more taste tests, more adventures, more monies, and for sport. Thank you for watching. Bye.